The gamer world is huge, and one that's full of more expectations and anticipation than almost any other platform. With the growing popularity of many titles over the years, the movie business has a tendency to seize opportunity to capitalize on some of that popularity by making films based on them. Many, and probably most cases, it's usually either mediocre at best or a total bomb. However, there are some that completely take the world by storm. Welcome to Patrol Clip, and today we're going to discuss the top 5 best and worst video game adaptation films ever made to date. Before we begin, be sure to hit subscribe if you're new, like, and ring that notification bell so you can stay up to date with all our videos. Let's start with the top worst. Number 5. Assassin's Creed. The Assassin's Creed series has been a huge hit for Ubisoft's marketed fans, with a long run of titles delivering different yet similar angles to the run-up walls and slice-up foes gameplay, an interesting storytelling of modern characters entering the past via a mind machine. But when the 2016 film was released, fans felt that arc of story development just wasn't quite there. Michael Fassbender was, of course, a brilliant choice for the main role, but other than a few cool action scenes, there was a lot left to be desired. The movie didn't flop at the box office, as it turned a $186 million budget into a $240 million worldwide, but those expectations were still way below what they should have been. Fassbender even admitted that the quote-unquote feeling of the film took itself too seriously. It's a shame, because the movie would appear to have all the makings of a great one, but unfortunately, bad directorial decisions and pacing hit this one hard in the assassin's pouch. Number 4. Super Mario Bros. Okay, so admittedly, the 90s were not an ideal time for video game movies to come out. 1993's Super Mario Bros., starring the late Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo as Mario and Luigi in a totally different aesthetic to the video game franchise, is no exception. Critics and fans alike all seem to revel in rare unison over this one. The idea of stuffing 2 ordinary plumbers down a magic pipe to another world sounds great in pixelated theory, and of course has worked marvelously for Nintendo for decades, but on film, yeah, not so much. The live-action set was apparently created by someone who may have had too many one-up mushrooms, if you catch my drift, with a dirty, almost post-apocalyptic setting versus the Mushroom Land Kingdom we all grew up with while whipping that old 2-button controller around trying to race to that flag like a boss. Obviously, the lack of CGI in those days was evident, as turning people into ghoulish puppeted reptiles and utilizing rocket boots and wires to make that infamous Mario jump seem believable shows just how much CGI might have helped, not to mention make the late Dennis Hopper look more Koopa and less Hoppa. The film only made half of its budget back, and the cast and crew all admitted to how much of a nightmare it was to make. Even John Leguizamo said he and Hoskins would indulge in a little liquid courage between takes. Number 3. Street Fighter. It's sad to think that a great actor's very last role in his mortal life had to end with an equally tragic bomb of a video game movie. Of course, we mean Raul Julia in his final performance as M. Bison, the evil overlord of the Shadaloo organization, in this 1994 film that everyone was dying to see. No pun intended, Raul. Street Fighter was meant to flesh out all the amazing fighting of the famed video game franchise, even enlisting a popular yet drug-addicted Jean-Claude Van Damme to play the tough American Air Force character Guile, but horrible direction, bad acting, worse use of choreography and stunt work, and choppy story that never really brings everyone in the way it could have made this another epic fail. On the bright side, Raul Julia did win a nomination for Best Supporting Role. It's just too bad his great performance will always be overshadowed by this sad take on an otherwise enjoyable game series. Sad looking! Number 2. Mortal Kombat Annihilation. Paul W.S. Anderson has become no stranger to video game movies, as he would later go on to direct the smash hit Resident Evil franchise. But his early incantation of horrible acting mashed with even more horrible pacing in the first Mortal Kombat movie is a crapshoot that left the then young audiences feeling a bit robbed, and somehow led to an even worse sequel. With terrible, and I mean terrible, special effects, unsatisfying makeup and costumes, ridiculously laughable talent, choppy pacing, and basically just a whole lot of nonsense, this throwaway video game movie probably should have never been made. Even for nostalgic purposes, going back to this movie still makes you realize what a hokey disaster it was. Number 1. Blood Rain 2: Deliverance. While many critics would put a title such as Alone in the Dark as not only part of the worst video game movies list, but even as number 1, we're going to give Christian Slater a little break on our list and instead focus on another epic ooey bull disaster piece, Blood Rain 2. While the first Blood Rain film had many mixed reviews, mostly bad, I personally thought it was still tolerable overall, even despite the super cheesy scenes and over-gratuitous use of obviously fake blood. It starred a young Kristanna Loken as Rain, but the sequel to this mediocre film was taken over by Natasha Mouth and set in the Old West rather than the medieval era, which is fine as Rain is an immortal half-vampire, so the time setting is irrelevant. However, it's the movie itself that totally bites, and yeah, that's a pun totally intended this time. The characters all act like total doofuses. There's no cohesive pacing, and the story feels like a child wrote it while being sedated on a melatonin overdose. It feels almost nothing like either a vampire movie nor a video game one. Thankfully, the third and final film, Blood Rain: The Third Reich, was a little bit better, but if you've never seen the second one, just take heed and save that hour and a half for something more productive. Alright, so that was our top 5 worst video game picks. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of people disagreeing with our top 5 best, and that's fine. The obvious takeaway from all this is that in general, most video game movies flop because of the gamers and their over-exceeding expectations, so please keep an open mind because we are a channel about film first. So moviegoers, here's our top 5 best video game adaptations. Number 5, Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. Jake Gyllenhaal is one of those actors who gets commonly mentioned on our channel, and this video game movie about a quick-moving, wall-running, stunt-jumping, desert-storming hero that can utilize the magical sands of time is worthy of our praise. Although some parts of the story feel a bit rushed, the amazing cinematography and all the sets on location hold nothing back. Scene for scene, you get to watch the epic action of the games come to life with even a pinch of comedy. The acting's pretty decent for what it's worth. It's actually quite impressive to think of how much training Gyllenhaal had to go through to help bring this character to life. Prince of Persia is a great thrill ride that should not be missed out on. Number 4, Tomb Raider. Every 30 to 40 something male gamer should recall the old PlayStation 1 days of playing as a pixelated Lara Croft and hoping for a valid nudity code that we never really got. But after years of almost complete public failure, Crystal Dynamics managed to salvage the dual pistol-toting British hottie character franchise and re-release her in a newly invented way. And this 2018 movie adaptation takes all of it, almost scene for scene, right to heart. All the scenes are created beautifully on location, completely on par with the game, keeping the puzzle-solving scenes and explosive action with all the tension of dire and painful moments. The film delivers, with actress Alicia Vikander doing a spectacular job filling this role. Not that we're totally dismissing Angelina Jolie. Okay, yeah, we are. We're totally dismissing her. Number 3, Sonic the Hedgehog. This is one of those movies where both gamers and regular movie watchers tend to find themselves at confusing moments of agreeance and disagreeance with a lot of mixed reviews. The story of Sonic the Hedgehog, in the film anyway, feels kind of abstract and at many times kind of boring, but as it progresses, it does get more interesting and believable. And after a while, you kind of forget about rules of reality and just start enjoying the absurd amount of fun that comes out of this movie. Jim Carrey's hilarious role of Robotnik is unforgettable and amusing as hell, and his interactions with James Marsden's character feels natural and equally entertaining. And you gotta hand it to the filmmakers who actually took all the backlash about Sonic's originally grotesque design and redid it from the ground up. That's pretty friggin' awesome dedication. It's not only filled with great special effects and voice acting by Ben Schwartz, but it's also engaging for every generation, especially the ones who grew up with that blue blur rocking our old tube TVs on the Genesis. Ah, yeah! Number 2, Dead Rising: Watchtower. Dead Rising is a video game series created by Capcom, the same company that developed Resident Evil / Biohazard, and it was their attempt to take everything that might have been slow-paced or too serious and just throw it all out the window for the sake of zombie-slaying fun. And the film adaptation does pretty much the same thing. Jesse Metcalfe stars as Chase Carter, a journalist who utilizes a news story of a zombie outbreak in a different town in spirit of his unofficial mentor, Frank West, who happens to make an appearance as a guide next to a news anchor and played by the funny Rob Riggle. Metcalfe does his job surprisingly well for a first-time action star after more tame roles prior, and even doing a full several-minute one-take scene exhaustively. It's pretty damn cool. The use of subtle Easter eggs in the film are great. Everything from the weapon crafting to the Servbot t-shirt that Chase wears to even a zombie clown scene. This movie keeps you watching. And number 1, all of the CG Resident Evil movies. To choose any one of the 3 released CG animated Resident Evil movies would be too difficult a task to bear, so we're just gonna group them all together, even if they are kind of their own stories. Degeneration is the first of the trio, featuring mainly Leon Kennedy, the one of the 2 main protagonists from the game Resident Evil 2, who teams up with a Special Forces agent to take down the T-Virus. This was the beginning of just how much eye candy Capcom wanted to bring to the big screen. Damnation continues with Leon again, but this time interacting with a new character who's able to use a new strain of the virus on himself to control the monsters known as Lickers in a sovereign Soviet location. Damnation is hailed as the best Resident Evil film of all time, and it probably is arguably that good, with amazing chase scenes that keep you wanting more and more. The third film, Vendetta, takes a slightly new direction with the same CG feel, but now bringing in longtime Resident Evil veteran characters Chris Redfield and nearly forgotten Rebecca Chambers, as they team up with Leon to take down a new threat of a madman trying to unleash the virus on a heavily populated New York. Fans had mixed reviews on this one, but the use of all 3 characters felt natural to me. It was great seeing Rebecca finally back and doing something awesome. Even if you're one of the many moviegoers who felt the live-action Resident Evil movies were not to your liking, these 3 CG films are definitely worth every pulse-pounding minute. Well, there you have it. That is our top picks for best and worst video game movies ever. Do you agree or disagree with any of them? Drop your comments below. And be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. And until next time.